Hello, everybody, and welcome back to You Exchange, the podcast where I exchange my user experiences to change them, and yours for the better. I'm Jeremy, a mentor and senior user researcher with over 8 years of experience and a background in neuroscience. Throughout my career, I've had the privilege of engaging with hundreds of users around the world, spanning across Europe, the USA, Africa, and India. This has allowed me to deliver actionable insights that have improved user experiences with nutrition, automotive, delivery, and e-commerce sectors. I've created this podcast with the aim of providing my mentorship and educational content, offering actionable tips, knowledge, and guidance in the realm of research, specifically focusing on UX research to anyone having an interest in this area. And I hope that you will find this episode insightful. Hello, UX friends. I hope you are all doing great and that you're as excited as I am for this second episode of this series dedicated to artificial intelligence and user experience. So, as promised in the previous episode, I will try my best to increase the number of episodes that I can offer you per week. Let's see how that holds in the distance, in the long run. But right now, I'm very excited to kickstart this second episode. And for today, I wanted to cover one of the aspects that I mentioned in the previous episode. So the previous episode was a bit different compared to what I usually do. It was more of my opinion on the topic, what we, according to me, could expect in the future in terms of artificial intelligence, in terms of user experience, why user experience will still need empathy from humans, why even if we have artificial intelligence, it doesn't take away the creativity that is inherent to humans, at least for now. I don't know about generative AI and its capabilities in the future, but at least for now, we still need the creativity, we still need the people, we still need interpersonal communication, and so on and so forth. But this was more of a opinion episode. I hope you liked it. I would be very curious to hear and to read your reactions, what you think, if you agree, if you disagree. So feel free to reach out in the comments and through the dedicated links that you will see in the show notes. But in the meanwhile, I will kickstart this episode by covering my techniques, my set of tools and techniques when it comes to artificial intelligence and user experience research. In my case, user experience research, but this can apply to various areas when it comes to user experience. So I will cover several steps, and I will start with the most important aspect when you use artificial intelligence. In my opinion, it's like any tool. So the way you can master a tool, in my opinion, you have the theory, you have all the explanation, you have the documentation, and then you have the practice, let's say. As far as I'm concerned, I really hate when it comes to technical information. I really hate to read technical information. I love to read books, I love to read articles, I love to watch some videos, but when it comes to technical information, like how to make an API call, how to make a prompt, and so on and so forth, I hate to read that. So for several reasons, because even if I read, I will have the impression that I have to read everything at once. And I will never need everything all at once. So that's why I hate it so much. My point with that is, in the end, if you want to master the use of artificial intelligence, like any other set of techniques and tools, yes, you can read about this, you can read the theory and so on, but there is no best way to learn than to practice. You need to practice. And so even if you don't read anything about this, artificial intelligence interaction, at least for now, is rather, how can I say, at least it seems rather self-explanatory. We have chat boxes, we have audio, microphone, and so on. I will cover all of these aspects about interaction with artificial intelligence and UX in the next episode. But at least for now, it's self-explanatory. So you can still explore and see how you feel, have a sense of were you reaching the expected outcome with what you try to ask to the AI, basically. That's my point. And so correct if needed and so on. It's basically more or less like speaking to a human, speaking to an assistant, and then seeing, okay, I need you to do that. Okay. And then you see the output, and then you see that it's not exactly what you asked. So maybe in the sequence of events from you asking to you obtaining a result, where was the issue? Was it because it was not understood the right way? Was it because it was phrased in an incorrect way? And so on and so forth. So it's pretty much the same. You need to experiment. You need to do several tries. And so it's the first message that I want to communicate, at least in my opinion. For me, it works this way. Maybe you're way more of a, visual learner. Maybe you need videos to teach you. Maybe you need text and so on. And that works well. But for me, like, these worked. But what made the difference was trial and error a lot of times. Nevertheless, I'm going to try to share what I know about how to interact as much as you can and the best you can with AI. So this first part, I want to talk about crafting effective prompts. So just know that, as I was saying about learning about AI, so this is, let's say, in the long run. So you will become a master at something if you practice it enough, and if you are able to overcome your frustration when you don't attain the objective you wanted to attain every time. But every time you should get better at this thing. So that's for the long run. But in the short term, every time you craft a prompt, just be prepared with the fact that it takes more or less 4 to 6 iterations for you to reach a good prompt. So for instance, if I want to ask my AI, okay, these are some insights from my UX research study, craft me a problem statement. Okay, usually what I have with this issue is that with this way of asking things, you will see throughout the episode there are many issues with this phrasing. But even if you don't know anything about talking to AI, you will identify the issues as soon as you will have the answer with this kind of prompt. So I will see something that is way too generic, and I will see something that could be given by someone who's not at all trained in the field of user experience. So when you talk to AI, just think about one thing. At the very beginning, your AI is so generic. It could be anyone. So if someone doesn't know about what is a problem statement in UX, they will do their best to formulate a problem statement, but they might not be able to. So that's one example of what can happen at the first try. So for instance, in this case, what happened to me oftentimes was, okay, I have a problem, yes, but it's not phrased the way it should, basically. It's not correct in terms of standards, and it's not helping me enough to act on it. So it's not being actionable. So then what was my solution in this case? I iterated the prompt, basically. So I thought, what is missing for the prompt to be better? What could be one thing that I could improve? So basically, I could give it a set of guidelines. First of all, I could tell the AI, okay, a problem statement is usually phrased this way. So use these ingredients, basically. That could be one way. And then you can give examples. It could be, okay, here is an example of a problem statement. So that would be my first message. It's really important for you to have in mind that crafting a good prompt takes time. First of all, takes iterations. You have to specify some examples, and you have to specify the way you expect it to be. So it can be a format, it can be a template, and so on. Then, of course, be specific. mention the final structure you want the information in. It can be a table. It can be, I don't know, now they can provide images. So whatever you ask, think about the format you want things in. Also, try to provide context as much as possible. Try to provide a brief overview of previous exchanges, and describe your current situation. Say why you need something. Say what you don't need. It's very frustrating to me when I ask things to AI and they answer every time. Certainly, I think it's a good idea for you to ask me that. I didn't ask anything about that. I didn't ask your opinion. So, but it's my fault in a way. You need to provide exactly what you expect from the AI. Also, what can work well is called few-shot prompts and one-shot prompts. So one-shot prompts, if I'm not mistaken, you can check. It's the fact of you asking at once with one prompt and expecting the answer, and then few-shot, it's meant to provide several examples basically. And then you can use some tools. For instance, in ChatGPT, we have this amazing plugin called Prompt Perfect. So you can use Prompt Perfect to refine a given prompt. And even without that, what I use oftentimes is ChatGPT, Prompt Perfect, but also I can use Claude.ai. The premium version is pretty pricey, so I use the free one. I have no affiliation whatsoever. It's just what I use and what I like to use. And what I do is I give a need and then I ask, can you improve my prompt? And so this is very interesting, this kind of use of AI, because you can improve your own use of AI by asking it to improve it. So for me, this is fascinating because there are so many intricacies when you use AI. And so I hope that this is at least useful to you. And then, of course, you can adjust the specificity. You can ask the AI to be more specific, to be broader, and so on and so forth. Think about the tone. So, for instance, if you want to provide something, but you want it to be provided in your way of speaking, imagine you do a research report, or you craft an email, but you want it to be written the way you speak. So you can tell the AI, use my writing style. And for that, you can provide some examples, for instance. Okay, here are some past emails in the way I talked. Use them as a reference. Can be that. You can ask it to talk like Shakespeare, for instance. You can ask anything. So that would be some examples of what you can expect when you use AI, at first, at least. Then that's for the first elements. Now I'm gonna cover how you can use AI in the different stages of the design process. So, just as a reminder, the design thinking process has several phases. I never like to give an exact number of phases because I like to see it as a process overall, and then it's whether it's 6, 5, 7, it doesn't matter. The idea is that you diverge at the beginning, you converge, you diverge again, and you converge, and so on and so forth. That's the design thinking process in a nutshell, right? So you start a project, you are given some requests by your stakeholders. It can be clients, it can be internal clients. Every time they are clients. The client can be yourself if you do a project for yourself. But it's the idea. You analyze this request, you determine if this request is worth pursuing or not. You determine if it's worth your efforts in terms of research, in terms of it can be design action, it can be development, and so on and so forth. I'm more focused on the research side of things, but I guess this is the same process for anyone running a project, either in design, in development, and so on and so forth. So you would determine that, and then you would, in terms of research, craft a research plan, craft some script, engaging in the research. That's the first part. So you research a lot of things, and it's problem discovery, basically. And then you would converge up to a point in which you identify the problem, identify some personas, customer journey, and the like. And then you diverge again when it comes to ideation. You generate a lot of ideas that you will refine afterwards to arrive at the final solution that you will test, and then you iterate again and again on this whole process. So what I really like about AI is that it's a tool. I hope I made myself clear in the previous episode. It's only a tool. I know it seems like it can do everything, and to some extent that's true. However, just think that it's here as a tool. It's like Excel. You can do many things with Excel. I know it's not very smart of me to compare AI with Excel, but just think of this as just another tool. And so, like any tool, you need to use it with a purpose in mind. Once you have the purpose, then you can use it. Of course, it's also interesting to think about, okay, we have this amazing tool. How can I use it to the best of my abilities? Why am I saying that? It's because throughout the whole research process, you have an infinite number of ways for you to use AI. You just need to identify what you can use and what you cannot. And let me make just a parenthesis here. Of course, if you work in a company, be really mindful about the policy to use AI inside your company. I remember when AI first came out at the very beginning, everyone was using it. Everyone. The ones who knew about this, they were using it without any, and the ones who wanted to use it, and so on and so forth. But people were less careful about this. So what happened is that we discovered then in the press and so on a lot of a lot of confidential information that were used by the AI companies to train their models. And so this has, of course, some ethical considerations and confidentiality matters that you need to take into account. So just check with your supervisor, check with your company, the policy, what it is to use AI, because when you use some models, just like ChatGPT or Claude or other AI models, I'm thinking about Figma. Figma also has some AI, and so on and so forth. Just think that when you input something, this thing gets onto servers that are not the ones of your company. So just have that in mind and just check, am I allowed to use that? Where will my data go? How will it be used? Is that okay with the policy of my company? Am I allowed to do that? So just check. So I wanted to say that before, because what I'm about to share are some tips and tricks when it comes to the use of AI. But of course, given the fact that you can use it in your day-to-day job, what I'm about to share, then you can use everything provided you have authorization. But also, if it's for your personal matters, of course you can use everything. So that's why I want to be exhaustive. I will try to be exhaustive, at least regarding to what I know. So when it comes to user research, there are so many ways to use it. So many ways. For instance, the one I can think about at first is when you get a request from stakeholders. What you can do is that when the request is incomplete or badly phrased or that it's not standardized and so on and so forth, what I do is I provide that. What I could do is I could provide that to an AI to analyze and to really give me really quickly what are the dark areas, the dark spots, the gray spots that we don't know about. What are some data that would be. It's like instead of you reviewing the whole request, it can help you to flag where the data is missing, basically. And it can also provide you some creativity when it comes to follow-up questions that you can ask your stakeholders in one of the methodologies that is called stakeholders interviews. So you can use what the request is, use AI to prompt it to ask basically, okay, here is one problem we have, and there was some request for research or for design. Do you think the request is exhaustive? Yes or no, and why? And then provide me some examples of follow-up questions for me to move on with this request, basically. That would be one way. That's one example. Then you could, of course, craft the research plan. So the research plan, if you haven't listened to my episode in the past, I highly encourage you to do it. I define the research plan with several categories, such as the research background, research methodology, problem statement, research goals, research questions, scope, and script, of course. So what happens in this case is that, for instance, you could use all the provided information to basically phrase it as a research plan. And it would be like in 5 minutes. Of course, it will never be perfect at once. You need to go through it. But it can save you time, basically. And it can give you some ideas. So at each step, think of it as a granularity progression. So you can think about, okay, craft me a research plan. Okay, now that you have the research plan, okay, let's dive deeper into this problem statement. This problem statement could be phrased another way. Okay, now deep dive into this problem statement to add 1, 2, 3 research questions. Okay, rephrase these research questions so that they are focused on X, Y, Z. Prioritize these research questions in terms of impact on the user experience, for instance, or here are some business metrics, here are some KPIs. Prioritize these research questions according to KPIs, for instance. So there are so many ways that you can use it. And I'm thinking right now about the research background, of course. The research background is basically a desk research. Desk research is all the research. I don't really like the term desk research. I would prefer secondary research. So it's a way for you to gather information from past research. Well, they're not exactly the same, but you can gather research from past research. You can gather research by talking to subject matter experts and so on and so forth. But what you can do is also scrape the web. You can also scrape the web and ask to ChatGPT, what do you know about, how could I say, best practices when it comes to e-commerce and trends? What do you know about competitors that are doing this in this field? And so on and so forth. So that would be the first steps for you to craft a research plan, and this is very, very useful, and then you could use it to align with your stakeholders. And then you can also use it to craft some scripts. So what I like to do is myself have a bank of questions and a bank of objectives, research objectives that I did in the past as a reference, and then I cross-link them and I ask my AI, okay, according to this research statement and this research need, and these research questions, craft me a script. It will never be perfect again. That's why it's also good to have some expertise in the field, because then you know what to ask, how to ask it, and how to correct, basically. So that is for the research plan and for the script. And here, the tools are fairly simple, to be honest. I would rather use ChatGPT. Claude, again, be careful. These tools, they take the data. So if you're not allowed to use it, just check if you have an internal tool available. And if not, just talk to your supervisor. Sometimes there are some interesting open source tools that you can use and that they're local, provided you have a good machine, for instance. So that would be for the first part, that is crafting the research plan, analyzing the requests from stakeholders, and crafting a script. That would be it for today's episode. In the next episode, I will cover the next steps when it comes to the user experience design process. So I will cover basically next steps, as I was saying. So for instance, you will have how to analyze user research data, come up with insights. I will cover also how you can create some designs, mock-ups, even if you're not a designer, how you can iterate on those, how you can prepare some user testing, analyzing the user testing, and so on and so forth. So basically, I don't really know right now what will be the amount of episodes in this series, but I will provide them topic by topic and step by step. So Right now, just expect the next episode that will be on the next stages of the user experience design process. I hope you like this episode. I hope you learned at least one thing. And if it's the case, as always, please share and subscribe, and see you in the next episode. Bye-bye. And that's it for today's episode. Thank you everyone for joining me today on New Exchange. I hope you found today's episode insightful and valuable. Make sure to subscribe in order for you not to miss the next episode. Share it if you liked it, and leave a review. Thank you for your time and attention. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for future topics, feel free to reach out directly to me. You can find all the details in the show notes. And see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.